Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mind Matters. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to you, the listeners, for tuning in. It really does amaze me that the amount of people that are actually listening to the show. So thank you for that. What also amazes me is that the amount of listeners that are listening to the show but are not subscribed. I'm asking a big favor of you. If you're listening to the show right now, please subscribe, because the more people who subscribe to the show allows the show to grow, which in turn will allow me to get even more special guests. That being said, on today's show, I do have a really special guest. He's an ex-Cardiff Blues player, an ex-London Welsh rugby player, and in his time, he was an 18-stone beast of a prop. And today we're going to be talking about, what it takes to become a professional rugby player, his highs and lows of rugby. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Nathan Trevett. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, mate. Thank you very much. Your words are too kind there because I can't remember the last time I was 18 stone, to be fair. I'm a lot heavier since I retired.
So to start off then, talk about, so we were just sort of having a chat before the camera started rolling. You went to St. Iltyd's and I went to Rumney High. For anyone who doesn't know that sort of geographical location, those were two neighbouring schools that at times were probably had quite a lot of riots and wars together, didn't they? What was it
Definitely.
like for you growing up in school, your school years?
They're really good, mate. Obviously, so I was obviously brought up in Sprock and Tremorford area and went to St Albans Primary School, which ultimately led to St Iltyd's, which I really enjoyed my time there. It was a bit different, obviously, going up the hill to a school when I used to just walk around the corner, but obviously made some great friends there. You're right about the rivalry with Rumney High because it was, what was it, a 2 meter gully that separated us.
Yeah,
Literally,
yeah.
that was it. But no, but like I said, we were lucky enough that back then when I was in school, we were lucky enough that every year we had a rugby team, every year we had a football team. We didn't play as many football matches, but we had a baseball team. So I think I think a lot of us say that being an 80s born kid is I definitely
That's
think it was a lot better back then because, like I said, this day, like my kids and my boy, like he went to Willows and unfortunately he didn't. I think he played one rugby game in 5 years. So it's I think that the times have gone where old, especially when we were in high school. I found that a lot of PE teachers were ex-players, whether it be rugby or some kind of. So they had an affiliation to actually want to make sure that the kids were playing rugby, if that makes sense, in
yeah.
school where it's never against the teachers now, but I don't think and some of us are the same. Where I don't think it's in their best interest to give up 2 3 hours after school, and maybe why should they? But maybe it's a question that obviously rugby needs to look into, further on down the line. But yeah, I really really enjoyed my school time in St Albans.
And was rugby always a part of your life growing up as a kid?
Um, I'm not. Well, it has been probably didn't. I think I was 11 when I first actually got into rugby. A good friend of mine, well, one of my best mates, I was best man at his wedding, Jason Matthias. He played for the school, primary school team, I think a year or two younger than he should have, like in year four, year five. And he was playing for year six. And I think it was only when I got to year 5 or 6 that I was obviously quite a big lad then as well. I was like, "When you play rugby?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And then obviously one game turned up. I think I was picked in maybe the B or the C team. It was my first game, and I think I scored 2 or 3, and I really enjoyed it. And then I went into obviously the 18 then. Then I randomly had a trial for Cardiff Schools under 11s, which again back then just that seemed to kick everything off. So yeah, I got Jason to thank for all my rugby really. So I probably would have got into it at some point, but he just kept on and on to me, and I finally give in, and the rest is history, as they say.
Was it kind of like love at first sight sort of thing? So the moment you sort of grabbed the ball and sort of made those first few tackles or scored the first tries, was that kind of like, yeah, do you know what, I'm good at this and I can do this?
Yeah, I guess it was obviously I was bigger than everyone else at the time as well, which helped. And but it was, I think back there, it was the scoring of the try. It was just like that buzz of scoring. You not so much running over people, but actually all right at this. But yeah, I've coached a lot of kids as well. But like now I say, when you get kids at 10, 11, 12, 13, they were just bigger than other kids. They look great on the field because they're bigger. But without trying to blow my own trumpet, I think that I had a very good skill level all the way through my career, especially as a prop. So I think having the skill level that I did actually helped and benefited me. There's a lot more to my game than just scrimmaging or carrying.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's obviously rugby is a brutal game, isn't it? But you have to have you can teach sort of the basics of rugby, but having that awareness, that sort of natural ability to know what's going on in the game is not as easy to teach, is it?
No, well, it's excuse me, well, it's gone massive now because obviously with the HIAs, you're seeing in the World Cup now, it's gone through the roof, which is a good thing. But I'm sure you watched a lot of the games because I think I watched 90% of them so far, and it just baffles me sometimes about the interpretation of some of them are reds and some of them are yellows.
Yeah, definitely.
It's such a weird feeling for me being an ex-player because the ones that I would probably say are red, they seem to be given yellows, and then the ones you might think oh, might be a yellow, they're actually given reds.
Yeah,
It's like it's such a grey area, but like I said, it's great for the actual sport. And again, I was saying about when we were kids growing up in the 80s, but if you're a kid now, I think with the gyms, the facilities, with everything that these, not so much the new players coming through, but even the players are still playing, they've got so much availability to everything that you need to be a bigger beast, if that makes sense.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
There's a more
you
science around it now, isn't it?
of course it is, mate, but yourself, like, we always say about like the South Sea Islanders use, sorry, Fiji, Tonga, just what they're huge men, and they are. But then you look at it now, you've got South Africa, they're massive, France are getting bigger, even Wales are big. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just years ago we just sort of say that the South Sea Islanders were the big men, but I think now, like you said, with the science, with the weight training, they got everything available to them now, from nutritionists to and like the hits are brutal, and I think they're getting a lot harder, but I think the game's getting a bit softer as well, if that makes
Yeah,
so it's
it's
like
almost getting a little bit like football now, isn't it? With the way they're sort of stopping the game and watching back the TMO, and then it's like, oh yeah, this he's gone a little bit, tackle by here on the chest, and they're
yeah.
giving penalties for it. It's
But a good thing I've seen, and I can't remember who posted it. It was a couple of mates of mine on Facebook the other day, but it was more the fact now that, like you said just now, rugby can be a brutal sport, and I think every rugby player or every rugby fan knows that and appreciates that it's a brutal game. But I think at the moment, with this, like you said, hitting here, riding up to the face or direct head contact, is fine. But I think there's a lot of diving, not so much diving, that's probably the wrong word, but
playing on it.
I watched the France game last night, and they took the number 9 out, and he came back, he threw his hands in the air. Um, Probably wasn't a penalty for me, but they actually disallowed the Italy try, and they went back and give a penalty to France. But then the TMO, the ref, and the two touch judges had a conversation on the pitch, and that's what I like about the rugby World Cup. Most of the games live now, so you can hear what the ref and the TMO was saying.
Yeah,
And then the three of them come to agreement that it wasn't reckless, and it didn't really, it was chest any. So like for me, it was like, well, you've disallowed a try and give a penalty, so it probably, you know what I mean. The sanction, if it's a huge hit and it's going to hurt people or head concussions, then 100% red cards.
yeah,
But it's like I just like you said, it's not. I think we're just checking everything now.
yeah,
And another thing, sorry if I'm keeping on, but another thing that is grinding my gears at the moment with the TMO is they're coming in with neck rolls and head contact and rucks and stuff, which again is great. But then what baffles me is they pull one, and then the very next ruck or two rucks later,
they let it
I'm
go.
watching and I see it, and I'm like, well, he's just rolled his neck, and then and I understand you can't come in at every ruck because you might pick up something in every ruck, but it's like I said, I think they got to get the balance of where do you draw the line in terms of what's classed as dangerous what's classed as direct contact to the head. Because, like, yourself, mate, if a big 6'9", 18-stone bloke hits you across chest and rides up to your face, it's still going to hurt, whether there's
Yeah.
contact there first. But like I said, it's great that they're stamping it out. But then, like I said, I still find it's such a, and I don't think unfortunately they'll ever get it right because
I,
you
I
can't.
I think the culture's changing as well. So because of this, sort of 10 years ago, you wouldn't have had rugby players make a meal of a tackle, of an illegal tackle. Now you're
Mm,
tending to find that these players are making a meal of it to get the ref's attention to sort of go to TMO.
yeah,
And I definitely think that is not a good thing because, like I say, players of 10 years ago would have just got up and just got on with it and not
of course
said
they
no
would.
more about it. Now they're sort of, like you said, the France game last night and he's, flailing himself back. It's just kind of like, just get, you're
Yeah, I'm
becoming like,
there.
without rubbishing football too much, they're getting
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
more like football players.
But it is, mate. Like football's been tarnished with diving for years, and let's be honest, it's because they dive. But like you said, but even the players now they're starting to do the square with their fingers, as if to say, "Ref, you've got to look at it." When, but in fairness, you hear some of the better referees will say, "We're checking in the background." Like, just leave it. You don't need to do all that.
Yeah, you do your
Everything
job,
gets
we'll do
checked.
our job.
Exactly. Like everything's getting checked. That's why there's two TMOs there now. Everything will get checked. Stop telling us to look for things.
Yeah, let's be honest. If you're on a rugby pitch, on a normal, amateur rugby game, you don't have all those cameras and the video refs and everything to look after you. There's a lot of things that'll get missed on a no, a amateur
Um,
game.
mate, that's some of the things you see in amateur. People actually getting full on punch from behind, and like you said, like there's no touch judges in those lower leagues and amateur leagues, and like in fairness to some of the refs, like they're a bit older or they're young, they're just starting, and a big massive 30-man brawl, they ain't sorting that stuff out in amateur rugby. But like you said, not so much the fighting, but everything that goes on in amateur rugby, people stamp. And again, but it's a weird one for me because when I played back in the day, that was you get stamped on, you get punched in the face, you have a pint with a guy after. It
Yeah,
was just it just shows how old I am, I
sportsmanship.
guess.
So just talking about like my eldest daughter is actually she's just gone to the gym now because she's just recently started playing for the girls Harlequins down in Whitchurch.
Oh,
And I'm
brilliant,
sort
yeah.
of yeah, I mean she's only done 2 training sessions with them. She was doing a bit of training with Lantwit Rhinos. But I stupidly put her in the wrong age group, didn't I, to correct that? And they were like, no, she's 14, but she should have been in under 15s or whatever. I was like, oh, great. So I put her in the right age group now, anyway, down in the Quins. What I have noticed with her is her confidence is like, how can I explain it? So she'll be on the pitch and she's like nervous to sort of integrate or to call for the ball and stuff like that. What advice would
Yeah.
you give to sort of any kids who were going into rugby or just starting off in rugby and were finding it hard to find their voice?
Um, such a difficult one because I actually put it go through with my own son. He's lucky enough at the moment that he's doing really well at present. But when he was 11, I took him training a few times. He would not train. He cried for me to take him home. I took him home. I had a lot of friends and parents saying, "Oh, you played. He has to play," and it was like, "It was." That for me, it wasn't. If he didn't want to play,
Yeah,
he wouldn't have had to. But my advice would be for like a youngster when they're shy, like just keep sticking at it. It's like keep going to training because this might sound stupid, but your first session, 3 or 4 people might speak to you. Your second session, 8 or 9 might speak to you. Your first game, you might make a break or you might do a wicked tackle, which sounds stupid, but when you're a youngster, it's sort of that's the tap on the head that you need from your other people for them to go, do you know what? It's a new person here, but
they got
he
to
just
see you.
made that tackle, or there's something about him. And then, all of a sudden, within, I'd say, a month or so, you actually look back and you go, oh, was I that shy? Back when I first started. But you think of it, you flip it onto us. Where if we get a new job or we meet someone new, you know, you're quite confident in your own ability, but you're still a bit weary of, going in like a bull in a china shop. You don't want him to think that an idiot, or I could use a different word, but I won't. But you know what I mean? It's like, but I honestly, I would say my experience in rugby, I've met some of my closest friends now to this day, which I probably get less for murder the amount of years that I've known them and hanged around with them, But like I said,
Yeah.
they're my best friends for a reason. And like I said, I was lucky enough to play over in England, and I met a lot of close mates. Don't get obviously to see them on a regular basis, but I speak to them a bit about Facebook and social media, and or maybe on WhatsApp and stuff. But I'm still in a few groups. But I'm being biased here. But for me, rugby is the best sport in the world to make friends and stay friends. So, like you said with your daughter, honestly, just stick at it. If after 5 6 weeks you actually don't like it, obviously don't stick at it. Like I said, I put my coaching hat on now. I've coached kids that I could tell don't want to be there,
Mm.
which I don't want to stop kids playing. And I'll always promote for them to play. I'll always play them in the games. But I'd like to think I'm a good judge of character when it comes to when I coach, that I can go, this kid's not actually interested. So I'll speak to them and say, "Do you want to play?" And they go, "Oh no, my dad's forcing me." Or so I'll go and speak to the parents, and
Yeah.
but it's 50-50 on that, because some go away and then come back when they're actually ready to play.
Yeah.
Some go away and stay away. But
It's a confidence thing, isn't it? I mean,
of course it is.
as a rugby coach, you can coach them how to throw a ball, how to do drills, how to do sprints, how to sort of tackle and all that sort of stuff. But there's one thing that you can't sort of teach them is to give them confidence.
100%, mate. That's the like I said, even with us and older people in jobs, and confidence, you can't give it to someone. Like you said, you see, you're in a pub, you see someone walking, someone you know, someone you don't. You look over, you go, "Oh, that guy looks confident." You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
said, you either got it or you haven't. It's
Yeah. She just
to that
recently,
point.
because of the what I said to you, I do neuro linguistic programming. There's a colleague of mine that, because it's easier for my daughter to have done that with someone else rather than it being with dad. But she's just
Yeah,
recently done a bit of work with a colleague of mine who's done a bit of work on her confidence. And last night's session, training session that my daughter done, I did see a difference. She was like talking to a big group of girls, and I was thinking, wicked, like that's exactly what I want to see.
100%. And like I said, mate, and like I said again, give you've got to give yourself 5 6 weeks before you make it, because some kids will come home after day one and go, "Oh, no one taught me, I won't go back."
Yeah.
As like I said, you speak to two or three the first week, that everyone else knows each other. So then all you need is one person to say, "Oh, she's a nice girl." All of a sudden, someone, you know what I mean? Someone else will speak to her. And but like you said before, like you've seen it in difference in one session, how different it can be. Like I said, you get that one group of girls speak to her, and that confidence will just go through the roof. Then you start playing well because you're confident and you're happier. It's
Yeah, it
everything's
goes
like a
from there
knock-on
then, don't
effect.
it?
Of course it
Yeah.
does, yeah.
So talking about obviously obviously I've done my research on you, and I know you've just mentioned your son. So he went, he's currently playing for Bristol, and I believe that last Six Nations he played for the under 16, was it?
England under 18s,
Under
believe it or
18s.
not, not
So
Wales.
um like again, like from youngsters' points of view who may be listening to this now and be aspiring to want to become a professional, you become a professional yourself, your son is now a professional. What advice would you give to youngsters who are sort of wanting to be a professional rugby player in the future? Sort of give the listeners the real attitude that they need to have, not just on the pitch, off the pitch as well.
Yeah, it's massive how you are off the pitch for me, as well as how good you are on the pitch. Like you just said, we're blessed at the minute that my son just signed a 3-year professional deal with Bristol Bears. He's 18 years of age. Obviously, he loves rugby. He's sort of brought up watching me play rugby. Um, but it hasn't been like plain sailing for him. It was I coached him all the way up, and I think sometimes it was a bad thing. As much as it was a good thing, I think it was a bad thing. He was constantly up there as probably one of our best players. But I would tend to not pick on him. That's the wrong word, but I tend to shout at my son more,
Be harsher on him because he is your son.
harsher on my son. But then, like, I stood there sometimes thinking, well, he's been our best player, and I'm shouting at him. But it was like, if it was trying to tell the others that if I'm going to shout at him, or he's playing this well and I shout at him, it shows that, I just shout at anyone. But my biggest thing would be like, again, you've got to stick at it, but it's the sacrifices off the pitch as well, which is, and my son's season now where, to be honest, I really liked to drink back when I was a youngster, and probably hindered me playing professionally probably before I did. Not that I was an alcoholic or anything, but I was out on a Friday on a beer where some people I knew were in the gym, and but a good thing with my boy is he does drink, but he probably drinks once every 6 weeks because he actually got a mindset of he wants to be a professional rugby player, which like I tried to explain to him, like it's a bit easier for me to explain to him because I've been there, but
Yeah.
it's harder for me to explain to him because he just tells me to shut up. He thinks and I'm trying to tell him like I've got the perfect tools for you, mate, to tell you this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. But again, like you'll come across that I'm moaning at him where if my mate said it to him, yeah, listen,
It's an
but
amazing
like
thing in a relationship with your kids, though, isn't it? Where
oh,
you've been there and done it, but they're like, "Yeah, I'm not listening to you. You're my dad."
yeah,
You're like, "Oh, come
just to
on."
go against you, and
Yeah,
but like I said to him, and like it's weird though, because like, we'd be on our own in the van or the car and we're driving out, taking it to and he's like, I do appreciate what you're saying, Dad. And it's like, well, try and show it sometimes. But I know he does deep down. But like I said, he's sacrificing now where he's turned 18 in June. His mates are playing for the local youth rugby team. They're winning and the beers every
yeah,
Saturday, and he's coming home because he's playing in Bristol. He's coming home. He's going to the club, probably having a shandy or not drinking, and then going home. And like I said, but another bit of advice I would be was don't put all your eggs into a basket because when you think of how many rugby clubs, not professional rugby clubs, how many rugby clubs we got in Wales. I know we've lost a few over the last few years, but if you talk of every mini and junior got 100 to 200 kids, times that by how many rugby clubs there are in Wales, which is, I don't know, it got to be 100 or 200.
yeah,
So you think, how many of them are actually going to turn professional? It's only like 1 or 2% or something, whatever it may be. I might have made that figure up, but you know what I mean? It's like a small percentage
yeah,
are gonna, become a professional rugby player. Where going back to what I said earlier is some parents who see their kid at 10, 11, 12, 13 running through everyone because they're bigger or they're stronger or they're just faster. They might get a kid who scores 10 tries in a match because he's just so fast and no one can catch him. And then all of a sudden, then you start getting these parents saying, "Oh, well, he'll play for Wales," and it's like, chill out. He's 12.
yeah. Let him
You
enjoy
need
it.
to get, of course, enjoy the rugby first. Like I said, first and foremost is stick it, sacrifice, do your training. And my biggest thing would be especially from ages like 8 to 15 or 14, is enjoy it. That's the biggest thing you need to do is enjoy rugby because if you don't, you know, you stop playing. And I've seen it over the years where I've played with some of the, some fantastic rugby players who like, New Zealand internationals, Welsh internationals. But when I look back, there was kids that my age and we played like our local youth team who were outstanding. But then they got to 18, 19 and their dad might have kept on to them or shouted at them or, and then they just turn around and go, Joe, I'm not playing anymore. And it's quite sad really because I think it happens more often than you think that a lot of people get to 16, 17, especially youth level where you've just gone from under 16s to youth. And obviously, you've got three age groups there where you're 70s, 80s, 90s. Well, these kids who are coming in their first year tend to go, well, I'm not going to play, so I won't play. Where I was the other way. When I went into youth, it was like, I'm first year youth, but I'm going to start every game.
Yeah,
That was
I
my
think it's that.
mindset.
I think it's that fine line, isn't it? As you're growing up as a kid, especially if because we've always got your sort of parents or guardians around you who sort of promote you to do a particular sport. But you do get to that sort of level in sort of 15, 16, and girls or boys come along and you're kind of the opposite sex or what have you, and you kind of go, oh, do you know what? I don't really want to do this anymore. And especially if that parent or guardian is like, nope, you've got to, and they're forcing you to go, it quickly becomes
100%, mate.
not fun anymore. So I guess, from the kids' point of views, if they're really that serious about it, that they've got to understand that there is a sacrifice that comes along with wanting to be a professional. Is that the point that you're making, right?
Yeah, massively, mate. Like I said, it's little things, even down to what you eat.
Yeah.
It may sound stupid, but you know, if you're out with your mates and you're having 10 pints and then you end up in Chippy Lane and you have curry off the chicken curry off the
The
bone
kebab and all that, yeah.
and a kebab. And then, but then you got someone in the same position as you up in Llanelli, for instance, and you two are fighting for the same spot, but he stayed in Saturday night. He had a tuna pasta, or and
Yeah, yeah.
he had a bottle of Seven Up, or as a treat, and it's just like it's a difference in how you're going to make it. Like I said, especially this day, and you touched on it yourself. You've got to be a physical specimen now. With the science and the training and the nutrition. You could be the best prop in the world, but if you're the unfittest, they're not going to pick you. It's
Yeah.
so
I
it
definitely
comes.
think a lot more of the youngsters are taking it to those levels now of, like I said, my daughter's just gone off to the gym now. She just recently joined the gym. Her boyfriend, it plays for Bedworth Rugby Club, and he's they're playing pretty good rugby at the moment. And his coaches have even given him a sort of training plan to do strength and conditioning when he goes to the gym and stuff outside of rugby. Was it like that when you were a kid, sort of being
Um,
given training to do outside of the rugby?
Not really, to be honest. And again, it goes back to what we were saying about the difference that happens in rugby these days, and not just rugby, football, all sports in general. But like what I found with us though, when I was growing up, was I'd play like I train with my rugby club on say a Tuesday night. Then the school rugby team would train on a Wednesday. Then we play for the school on a Friday, or then we play for the youth on a Saturday, or I'd end up playing football on a Saturday and playing rugby on a Sunday for like the mini and juniors. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, yeah,
I think I
yeah,
was doing sport every day, but not like back then. Again, it goes back to like when I was first picked in the Cardiff RFC academy as it were there, and that was before the Blues even existed.
yeah, yeah,
And there was like 8 of us, and like don't get me wrong, we used to go to Fire Gardens. We do 2 or 3 weight sessions a week with them, but like it wasn't like it is now. Like you said, 13 foot, well, not 13, 14, 15. They're giving you plans, which is helping now because, like I said, you want to get to a pretty physical condition by the time you're 16. Because, like I said, you go in from 16, you're going into youth. Some people now are not even, they're turning 18 and playing first team rugby straight away, which it's a huge ask, to become an instant success as an 18-year-old kid playing in a men's league. Because you know it doesn't matter how big and strong you are. These seasonal campaigners, are older. They're probably
serious.
more stronger, experienced, and they've seen it all. They've seen this new whippersnapper come along every season. We were that once, as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like I said, it's just a weird like with going back to like I said when we were playing in when I was younger. Sorry, was we'd never had a training program given to us because it was just the norm of just go and play, or you sort of got to like Cardiff schools in the 15s. If you got picked in that, then it would be like Wales in the 16s back then, which naturally progressed then to like your 18s. Then you went to 19s, and it was like a
natural
follow on
progression.
effect every year. But then it was like almost like if you missed the under 15 boat, it affected you long term, if that makes sense, because you were out of the picture as such. It was, I was lucky enough that I was picked in probably every squad that I was ever able to be named in, luckily. You know what I mean? But then you see players that wasn't, or like, it's like 92% of the squad was the same as last season because it was just easier, probably from the coach's point of view, because they probably knew that they had after most of the best players already. Then you might find one or two little gems come along all of a sudden,
Yeah. So just to touch on what you said earlier, about don't put all your eggs in one basket, because I read Jamie Roberts' book before, and I know sort of when you turn professional, it can be quite a cutthroat industry in terms of your contracts and what they can what they can do to you if you like, and it can really put you in a a bad situation. So what would you say in terms of that?
This like I've had a few contracts obviously in the past, and it's sad because when you're playing for your future and your job, but also you're paying to pay for your family, and like you said, the pressure is, all of a sudden people start coming up to like the last 6 months of their contract. You're like, right, I got to perform now, or I need to have a new contract, or I want to go and get a new contract. But then you flip on the side, then I had the Blues where I was not one of the main superstars, but I was probably a decent pro there who had a decent career. But Gethin, when I was there, Gethin Jenkins was coming back, and my contract was up, and then it was like, right, I'm not going to get a contract here, and if I do, Gethin's coming back, and he's probably one of the best loose heads to ever grace the game. So I knew I wasn't going to play much, but in the back of my mind, it was like, but I want a contract because I still want to earn money and I still need a job. And luckily, then like London Welsh came along, but it's such a huge cutthroat business. Again, like you said about what they got, the clauses and stuff like that. Is you have a long term injury, you could be gone. I've seen some of the best players again. And I know you mentioned him earlier, like Gareth Delve. I know Dalvey quite well, and
Yeah,
he was lucky enough to go on. He still had a great career, but he didn't have as many Welsh Cups as he probably should have. But it was purely because his shoulders kept going, and that's the other thing. Now, once you get an injury or a weakness in a certain area, you'll see that they'll put clauses in your contract where if it goes again, we're going to release you with no pay. Where it's like, well, hang on, I could be out for 8 months with my shoulder up,
yeah. So there's not much
and
protection.
well, no, again, nowadays the money's a lot. They're earning a lot more money now, especially with like Japan. I think America will come into it with a lot of cash because they throw everything, a load of cash at everything. The
Yeah,
Americans, in
as they do.
fairness. So like, you're quite lucky that a lot of them will honour the contract. But like you said about it being cutthroat, it's like, 1 month you could be, or what they perceive to be number one choice. Within 6 months, you might have had an injury, you fell out of the team, someone's taking your place who's playing well, all of a sudden you're third or fourth choice, contracts come up and they go, well, he hasn't played for the last 6 months, we'll get rid of him. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, but then that's another thing that a bit of advice to youngsters again is you could be professional for 2 or 3 years and then gone. That's how, again, that's how
How
cutthroat it
cutthroat it
can
is.
be. 100%, mate. And as a sportsman, like I was a competitive sportsman, and I wouldn't have it any other way, because you want to be there on merit. You want to be there because you've earned it. You don't want to be there because your dad's the coach, or you don't want to be there because you know the coach you signed for another club who took you with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you want to get there on your
It's
own merits at the end of the
yeah, of
day.
course you do. Yeah, and but like you said, it's a lot of not so much stressful, but like you said, all of a sudden you sign a 2 year, 3 year deal. You're laying there going, well, do you know what? I'm all right for 3 years now.
Mm,
Where like I said, another when they might go, like you haven't been playing great, we give you a 1 year. So and then all of a sudden what you find is and I spoke to players in the past, obviously I wouldn't name any names, but like they're playing with injuries just because they know they have to play to get a new deal.
yeah, going through
And
going through the injury like.
but then but they might not be playing to their best because they're carrying a niggle, but then like I said, they need to play because they want a new deal, they want to impress. It's like it's a fine balance of what you do. Do you look after your health, or do you have, or do you think I need to, like you said, look after the family in terms of paying bills, etc.
Yeah. Would you say it's good then to get a decent like agent or something who's can negotiate the right contracts for you?
Yeah, well, to be honest, when I did mine, I never had an agent because I sort of came into professional rugby a little bit later than I should have. I sort of ended up just doing my own deals, which I found okay because once I'd done the first one, the next one, they sort of just flew. I spoke to the head coach and the decision maker, and it was like, this is what I want. They were happy, and I was like, well, let's just sign it. But now I think that having an agent is the best thing. My son again, going back to him, he's lucky enough that he's just signed with a massive American company called Voselman's Agency, which are huge in everything in terms of American and boxing, and they're just getting bigger and bigger. And it's something that I always said to him that you need an agent, because when I was playing with the Blues, I was comfortable there. I was happy to sign a new deal. Then I went to London, so I was happy to sign a deal. Then I was happy to sign another deal, because I sort of got there and I was comfortable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm playing, I'm earning, I'm happy. But like nowadays, like I said, with the global brand of rugby getting bigger and bigger, and the money that's out there to be earned now, you need an agent out there knowing, there
Getting you the
could be a
best
club
deal.
in Japan who needs a loose head prop, and they're going to treble your wages. It's
Yeah.
because it's such a small career, or sorry, short career. Unless you're like earning massive bucks from like 20 to 35, I'm not sure of the actual statistics, but I'm sure it's something like 80% of ex-rugby players actually end up going back and working, just because even though you earn a good wage, it's not footballers' wages, and, but again, it's how you perceive it to be. I know a lot of them have, they set up their own business, and
Did you have a
so it's
long-term
not,
goal? Did you have a goal after rugby yourself? The transition from rugby, the
no, to be honest, no. And that's another thing that, you need people around you in terms of supporting, because like I said, all of a sudden I was a professional rugby player and everything was rosy, and then the next thing is like, well, hang on, I've just snapped my leg, I've just retired. Actually, I got no trade behind me as such. What am I going to do now? Like it was, you know. But again, that was probably my own fault for not using my spare time when I was playing wisely, because people got a perception of professional rugby players that you just play on a Saturday, you do nothing all week. It was very not, it's not the case. It's you're in Monday, you're in Tuesday, you're off, you're in Thursday, you're in Friday. All right, Thursday, Friday tends to be a bit shorter days and not a lot of running because you're playing on a Saturday.
yeah.
But like you do get a lot of spare time. And to be honest, especially when I was up in London, I was living with a few of the boys in the clubhouse, and you go home and you have all the intentions of doing this. I'm going to do that, and one of them would put the PlayStation on, and the next thing you're having a FIFA tournament, and but then
Yeah.
like, I'm saying like I could have been going to a university study, or not so much a university study, but like a classroom,
Yeah, an
or like I said,
open learning or something like that.
yeah, 100%. Got like, and like you said, you're a plumber or electrician, or just use that time wisely.
Yeah.
And that's again where my son is quite lucky, where I can give him my advice of, as like, mate, you're doing amazing at the moment, but it also can fall off into, in 3 years' time, Bristol don't renew your deal,
It
and
doesn't
no one
last
else wants to
forever.
sign you. All of a sudden you're 21 and you're in a big world. And this is what I'm saying to him now. Whether it's, I'm not saying right now, but whether you want to be an electrician or a plumber or anything you want to do, because I think he mentioned hairdressing the other day, to be a barber. And I said, mate, that's a good job, it's great. But there's no point sitting there saying I'm going to do it. You've got all these spare hours of the
Take
day.
the
You
action.
go and do it. Yeah. Like I said, all of a sudden, I said to him, thinking massively ahead, I said, you go and have a good 10, 15-year career. And then all of a sudden, you're putting your money away. I said, you've opened 3 barbershops, but you've got people working in them. You're not actually doing the work yourself. If you invest properly and, like you said, go back to the agent, they will get you the best deals. They will know what a club is looking for. So my advice would be, even though I didn't have one, my advice now would definitely get an agent who obviously who's there in the best interest for yourself.
Yeah. You talked earlier about the things about the worries of, playing through injuries, or, if you snap your leg or your shoulder or something like that, and you come to the end of your contract, that they may not renew your contract. What sort of thing, what's that like on your mental health as a player?
Um, Luckily, I was okay. To be fair, from a personal point of view, I know others haven't been. Like I said, all of a sudden, you're earning 300 grand a year being a professional rugby player. You've gone and bought a £500,000 house. All of a sudden, you've done your ACL. You're out for 9 months. The club have released you, but you've got to find £1,500 a month, you know, to pay your mortgage or pay your bills. And like I said, personally, it didn't affect me, but I think it will affect a lot of people because, like you said, the stress, and it does, and not to be sexist, but a male tends to bottle it all up inside a lot more anyway, and you'll just say to the boys, "I get everything's fine," where it could, it might not be if that's the case. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean on that?
Would you say in rugby as well then that there's enough support in terms of like mental health, or if there's enough counselors and stuff like that for the players?
Yeah. Again, the game this day and age is just gone, ultra professional. In fairness, you look at every club would probably have someone come in, to have meetings, or they might have an assistant there or someone who you could just say, look, if you've got any problems off the field, go and see Zoe, for instance, and everything's confidential, and but like, I think a lot of people probably tend not to say nothing though, just because they don't want to be seen as weak in a in
Yeah.
a in an alpha male environment, if
What
that
would your
makes sense.
thoughts be on that?
My thoughts would be
Just to speak
bite the
about
bullet,
that.
because what I found from personal of previous times is if you bottle it up for 3 months, it comes out at the end anyway. It has to be a point where you have to tell someone, or or you've lied to the missus before about something silly about I wasn't in town. Or sorry, you're telling me you weren't in town with the boys, but you were, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden, 3 months later, she'll walk and go, "Oh, you weren't in town that night." It's like,
Yeah.
do you know what I'm saying?
She's
Like,
clocked you, yeah.
yeah. But I know I went off a bit off topic with that point, but what my point was, it's going to come out in a few months' time, regardless of, I think, of how you perceive yourself to be, whatever. Like it's, go and see them. It's
Mm.
confidential. It's private. Go speak. Even as much as the boys in the changing room might have a laugh and a joke about something, if you pulled one of them and said, "Can I have a coffee?" they would sit down, and they would. And if you asked them not to say nothing, they wouldn't say nothing. That's what's been a great thing about rugby, and my experience is, like I said earlier, the friends you meet, the people you bother with, and they're friends for life. But you're going to into battle with them on the field. They got your back off the field as well.
Yeah. I mean, talking about things or not talking about things is like sort of getting a glass, and each time sort of these issues and worries on your mind, it's just like filling that glass up a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until it gets to a point where that glass will just overflow. And like you said, some way or another, then it comes out, and whether that's through going and drinking X amount of alcohol and then sort of breaking down with it, or
Yeah,
doing something silly. That's why it's just so much better to, as that glass is filling up, just empty it. Just
yeah,
talk
hundred
about it.
percent. It's like I said, we've all been there. To us, whether it's something silly or something serious, we've all, And if someone says they haven't, then they're lying. Because something's happened to us all in our lifetime. Whether you've lost someone that you care for, or you might have lost a pet, or it could be anything silly. You might have gone and gambled your mortgage away, and your missus don't know. You know what I mean? But it's like from my point of view is just sit there and tell someone. It doesn't make you a weak person. You know what I mean? It makes you a better person, if anything.
Yeah.
Because once it's out as well, it's out. It's like I said to my missus, when I mess up, like I haven't killed anyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just off your chest
It,
then, isn't it?
yeah, and then you sit down and you go, "Do you know, actually feel better now I said that,
Yeah.
or now I've done that." You know what I mean? And like I said, my advice would be, again, just don't bottle it up. Just go and speak to, even like I said, even if it's your head coach, it could be one of your teammates. It might be a physio. Everyone's gone home. You're seeing your physio, or you might be injured and you're in on a day off with your physio on your own. It might be a good chance to say, "Listen, I'm struggling with this," or
Yeah.
or can you point me in the right direction of who to speak to? But like in fairness, like when again when I was playing was in the WRU and the RFU, because obviously I can speak about them because I played in them. But they always had, they had the RPA, which is called the Rugby Professional Association, which they would come in, say, I can't remember, once a month, once a week, whatever it was. But we'd have our own person assigned to every club, and she'd sit down for an hour or two with a coffee, or she'd bring brochures in for the boys to go into colleges or universities and do, like we said earlier, about studying or learning extra in outside. like, they can prepare you for your retirement in terms of getting a job ready to go. So again, I know that WRU and the RFU are promoting that a lot through the Rugby Players Association, which is amazing because, like again, you can go and speak to them about anything, whether you're at a retire at 19 through injury, whether you're retired at 37 because you're just old and your body's broken down, But like I said, they're there. And again, it goes back to everything I said earlier about the game's just gone, for me, through the roof as professional as it can be. And you have every option available to you for anything you need.
It's good to hear. Funny enough, I was watching. Have you seen the Beckham series that has been put on Netflix recently?
No, to be honest, I plan to watch it tomorrow with a hangover. That was
Okay.
my.
Well, I won't spoil it too much for you, but just
I
because
have seen clips on
have you?
Facebook.
Just
Yeah.
because we're on this topic, like I had, I obviously can remember like the class of '99 and what have you, and I had forgotten the stick that he got for that sort of World Cup red card that he got. The amount of, and this is what we don't realize, you see, behind closed doors, is the amount of sort of mental health that he was going through, the depression, where he was getting so much stick, and obviously he was just bottling it up, and he wasn't really talking to anyone. And that's why I think we needed the culture change within sports that we now have for players to be able to sort of deal with their emotions.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I did see a clip of that on Facebook, and it was when he got sent off in '98, wasn't it? And the fans were obviously sending death threats, and I
Yeah,
think I've seen something that he said he just didn't know what to do with himself.
yeah,
And I've seen a little snippet of Gary Neville, who's probably his best friend in football, still is probably, but. And I don't know if you've seen it, but you must have. But they interviewed Gary Neville, and he said, "I was on the bus. I remember thinking this is going to be bad for you."
yeah. He did. Yeah, yeah,
So if if another player knows it's going to be bad for you, then every other player probably knows it's going to be bad for you. The manager knows it's going to be bad for you. The FA knows it's going to be bad for you. What did they do to actually help him? You know
nothing,
what I mean? Yeah,
nothing.
exactly. So I
We
remember him saying then, sorry to
go on.
interrupt. I remember him, the next clip I seen then was him saying that when he scored that free kick then against Greece in 2002 or whatever it was, to get into the Euros, it's like he said he felt that he owed him something. So he wanted to do something special. But it's like, again, like I was saying just now, like you didn't murder anyone, you got sent off in a World Cup match, okay, it's huge, but it's not when you
Not the
think
end of
of
the
what
world.
people are going through in the world these days and ages, but that's football, not football, that's sports fans for you,
Yeah,
If you
very
do that one
passionate.
mistake that costs you your team or your country, we get it now. You imagine someone knocks on in the World Cup final and he's going
Yeah,
for the winning try, and
right on for the
you're,
try. Yeah,
but even like, you probably remember yourself. And I remember like my first ever thing about football when I was, I'd be 9 or 10 in '94, when the World Cup football was in America. Can you remember when the Colombian defender, I believe, he scored their own goal and knocked Colombia out? And he went home and he was in the restaurant
uh,
having food with his partner and kid, and someone
yeah,
shot
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah. I remember that. Yeah,
And
crazy.
it's like Jesus, like he scored an own goal. It's like,
Yeah, he didn't
but
do it
like
on
you said,
purpose.
what? No, exactly. But like you said about Beckham, and again, it's hard because he probably did because what was he at the time? He would have been about what, 20?
23,
Was he
23
23?
was.
You imagine being 23 years of age, sat on that bus. The fans are throwing everything at the bus. Calling you every name under the sun. I even
Yeah,
remember, briefly in the papers was a thing of him hanging,
yeah.
from
Someone, yeah,
with his
someone.
shirt on, and
Yeah. I
you
mean, what
imagine
what must
seeing
that be
that.
doing to your head, seeing all that sort of stuff at 23?
It would have been huge, wouldn't it? And again, back then, he probably had no support or, no one that could put him in the right direction. And, I even, again, going back to the show that you're on about with the Beckham, his mother was on there saying she couldn't believe that Glenn Hoddle was actually stood there blaming him.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, yeah, he did.
Yeah, and he's like, and they said, I think the interviewer said, oh, did it cost you the World Cup? And he's like, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
she was sat there going, I can't believe you just did that to him. Like, you've thrown him, the whole country are after him as it is,
yeah,
and you've just, imagine being, like you said, mate, God, don't get me wrong, he had all the money in the world, he had all the fame in the world, but if you're 23 and lonely and sat in the house or the flat on your own, well, it doesn't matter what you got in the bank account. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you're driving. You know who you're bothering with. If you think everyone hates you and you're sat in that flat, it's a lonely old place, like
You've got nothing. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. Really unprofessional of that Glenn Hoddle, really, wasn't it? As a as a coach to sort of be singling out one player and blaming the loss,
Well,
just on Beckham was.
again, like just going back to that, it was huge because in my playing time, don't get me wrong, I've had some shocking performances. Everyone have.
Yeah, it
I've also
happens.
had some. I've also had some amazing games and amazing performances. And you know what you want and what you want to feel from your head coach is for him to turn around and say, can I have a word? And then you go in, in his office. Look, mate, you were terrible on the weekend. You're starting next week, but I want a better before. Like, for me, that was amazing. You
Mm.
know, because I come off the pitch knowing that I've had a shocker, if that makes sense. I don't need everyone to tell me, but like you said, I don't want to be in the huddle with all my teammates with him shouting at me saying, you cost us the game, because, you feel bad enough already. So for him to say, you've cost us a World Cup, I can only imagine, what that feeling would be. And again, being a sportsman, I know he did not help the matter, I get that, but like they still went and lost on penalties. So like two other players have missed two penalties or whatever it was.
Yeah,
But yet,
exactly.
his red card took the fact of that away because they needed someone to blame and they went for him rather than the guy who missed the pen, if that makes. So they sort of got
Yeah,
off scot-free, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Because
exactly. I mean, if you look when you watch it now, like so he got fouled, and it was a foul. The guy like shoulder barged him in his
yeah,
back,
yeah,
and he's like laying on the floor, and he only moved his, he did retaliate. He was like like a
he flicked
quick,
up, didn't he?
yeah, quick reflex thing, as you would if someone sort of like punched you in the face, you'd stick your arm back out to punch them back, sort of thing. And that's
Yeah,
that's
it's like a reaction,
in
isn't
my
it?
opinion what he done. Yeah, it was a quick reaction, or it was a stupid reaction, but I've seen far worse in things like football or rugby where they just sort
I
of,
think. Sorry,
yeah.
what?
So I was just gonna say where they just sort of retaliate worse than that, and he got, there's a yellow card in my opinion, and that was it.
I was just about to say, do you know what makes it worse for me was when you look, because I've seen it obviously over the years anyway, before the documentary. Like when he actually comes up, it's like his foot actually just lands on his calf. He don't actually kick him with any force, if that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
It just comes up, like you said, it's probably like, let's be honest, probably they give a yellow card now, but it probably even a yellow. But
no.
again, you reaction in sport,
Well,
you
going
you
back to what
can't
I
do
said
it.
earlier about how it's getting more in rugby, but it's definitely in football. But the guy made a meal of it. The guy,
Of
he
course.
was already going backwards, I know, but he felt the contact of the leg on his leg, and he just made a meal of it and fell down.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
that's
the
what.
same as Rooney, when he got sent off in Euro '06, was it, or something?
Yeah,
And Ronaldo did the wink, to
yeah,
his
yeah,
teammates, because it was like he ran into, like Rooney, again with his documentary, he said, I don't know if I stamped on it. He said my mind went blank. I don't know if I stamped on him on purpose. But then they all went wrong and got him sent off. You know
yeah.
what I mean? It's like, what are you doing? Like, you're meant to be a professional sportsman who, yeah, we do anything to win, but do you want to go down that route of wanting people sent off and wanting people like Beckham to go on thinking he's cost his country a World Cup? And like you said, especially at the moment with like mental health, mind matter, it's huge because all of a sudden you think that and you turn, you usually look to your teammates, for the confidence of look, we're in this together. But then you're probably sat. Well, I think Beckham would have been sat there going, right, do these all think that? Do these all hate me as well? So it's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I only got my teammates now at the minute. You know,
Yeah,
my coaches just ragged me out on live
yeah.
TV to five
Millions of
million
people,
viewers
like,
or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah, but like you said, it's huge. Like as a coach and as an ex-player, I would want myself to be able to just speak to them individually on their own, or you know, don't make a big scene. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes we get frustrated and they might come out, "Oh, you were rubbish today." But then, on training on Monday, you put your arm on and say, "Look, I was a bit upset, but we go again." And all of a sudden, what's perceived that certain player to have a terrible weekend because he got a bad game. All of a sudden, you put your arm on him, he feels on top of the world again. And it's something that's so little that you can actually do to make someone feel better, and especially in a sport environment. You know.
So from your experience then, when you were playing rugby, was there, I mean, I can guarantee there would have been foul play, dirty tactics by the oppositions. Maybe even you were probably in playing for teams that were using, because you try to get under the skin of your opponents to put them
Yeah,
off
of course you do.
their game. What's your experience with that then?
I've had a few, mate. It's such a weird. I find a weird old sport on times because you know, especially as an ex-prop, you'd be scrummaging against a tight head and, one scrum you've absolutely annihilated him, you've had a penalty, you get up and, oh, yeah, you're not so good now, you fatty, or, because that's what happens, and I've been on the receiving end of it as well. But I remember we played, I was playing for London Whilst we playing the Cornish Pirates, and I think I was on the bench, and I think I was annoyed at something, probably because I was on the bench, and I came on, and it was like a week before Christmas, and I was just like, oh, and it was like the last scrum of the game, and he said something, and I'm not proud of it, but I ended up headbutting him, and I had a
Mm,
straight red card, and
yeah,
I walked off, and the coach said, "What are you doing?" And I was just, even the ref, he was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, and I was that was probably the only time that my head fully went, and I to this day I couldn't tell you why, but it
you
was
was
like I
probably
said, it was
one in the
just
right frame of mind, were you, before going onto the pitch?
like I said, I was on the bench, I was annoyed, Eve, like you said, but I love it because we all like banter. I go to give you an example. A couple of years ago, playing for London Whilst against Bristol, and a very good mate of mine, Pete Edwards. Hopefully, a lot of listeners will have heard Pete the Meat. He's quite famous around Wales. He's a Scarlets legend. He's a big old boy. And again, we were playing Bristol, and me and Pete, we were both. I believe it sounds like I was on the bench all the time, but I was on the bench for this certain game. But we'd started the first 8 games of the season, and we were doing really well. We were destroying teams in the scrum. Played someone else 1 week before Bristol, and we got first time we got annihilated in the scrum. So then we ended up going drop for the biggest game of the season, which was Bristol the week after. And I mean this with great respect, and I know people won't mind me saying this, but he had a big old drum on him, like his dad. He was
Yeah,
poking out, but he was an amazing scrummager, an amazing bloke. And first scrum we came on together, and Mark Sorensen, his name was, he was captain of Bristol at the time. And as Pete went down, his belly came out of his shirt. And he went, "Oh my God, that's disgusting. I didn't want to be behind that fat, blah, blah, blah." And you could just see, I looked at Pete and I don't know what it was because he was one of the most placid blokes you'd ever meet in your life.
yeah,
And I just looked at him and I just seen a difference, if that makes sense, whether it was his eye. And then this particular scrum, we end up going right over the top of him, win a penalty. And I never seen Pete go like this. And he went, I won't swear, but it was like a few choice words in the fact of, "You wouldn't mind being behind this fat now, would you, mate?" And it was like just one comment from that guy had made Pete go from like the most placid guy in the world to the nastiest guy for that only for that split 20 seconds.
yeah,
But like you said, about getting under your skin, it happens a lot. But in terms of my experience, I'd be like, "Mate, I'm different, but I ignore it." You know, I've had it for loads of times on the pitch. Oh, yeah, shit. Oh, sorry. You're rubbish.
yeah,
You know, And like, yeah, but I've also played 300 games of professional rugby, or it's so I can't be that. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Some of it, and like yourself, mate. Coaches will say to you, "Look, the number seven's an op-ed. Wind him up." And it's
yeah,
not to wind him up; it's to get him off the pitch.
yeah. Yeah, because
It's
teams say for example, at uni you've talked about Bristol a few times. They were kind of your grudge match team when they went while you were with
yeah,
London Welsh, and sometimes you're going up against a team who you think to yourself on paper they're better than us, so we have to get into their skin so that they don't play their best game, and we bring them down so that we can get them to play our game rather than them playing their own game.
their game, yeah, 100%. Like I say, mate, it's just what's it called? It's schoolboy tactics. Let's get their best players sent off or try and get him sent off because all of a sudden we're a good team, but if they're down to 14, we probably will definitely win. Then you flip it on his head. If I was the coach in the opposition room, I'd be saying to a certain player, "Listen, mate, they know you're a hothead. They're gonna get under your skin. The best thing you can do is
Be
just
cool.
be cool, relax." I remember Chief, Dale McIntosh, quite a big name around Wales again with the coaching scene. He always used to say it was fire in the belly, but ice in the head, and it's such a simple saying, but it's so right.
Yeah.
It does, your head's got to be ice cool for you to get through your game of focus. But the fire's got to be there because you want to go out and hurt someone, but legally hurt someone,
Controlled.
Not even, not even hurt them, but yeah, controlled aggression, let's say.
Yeah. So how would you prepare then for, say big games where you really had to win this particular game? What would you sort of prepare? How would you prepare mentally? What would you be thinking?
Um, Not a lot, to be honest. It was. I used to get a mick take at me a lot. I used to sit in the corner of the change room listening to Drifters. That was my my thing before games. Like I used to just listen to like 60s, 70s
Bit of
music, and
Motown.
yeah, and like my mates would be there listening to like we always have a boom box on in the dressing room, and it'd be all this noise going off,
Yeah.
and I didn't like that. I didn't need someone grabbing me and get headbutting me. It was Trev's over in the corner. He's listening to his music. He's listening to his Motown. So I used to, a few of the boys that would take grab an ear off me, and they go, "How can you listen to this and then go and play rugby?"
Yeah.
You know.
Because it's just
But in
so
my head,
chilled, like
yeah. But in my head, it was like I didn't care who we were playing or who I was playing against as individual position. I always used to, especially back then when I was playing full time and fit, I backed myself in that league against any of the loose heads.
yeah.
And any of the teams. Like I said, we were lucky enough at London Master, we were pretty much towards the top in those games, top of the league in those games. So we were quite confident that we were going to win most of the games anyway.
Yeah.
But like I said, from my point of view, I never thought anything different than, again, I used to just chill out and literally, you wouldn't get a reaction from me. But even towards the game kicking off, I'd say from the first ever game I played to the last ever game I played, I'd have butterflies. And again, I don't care who you are, you get them, you get them. And you do, you run through it. 5 minutes before kickoff, you're like, oh, what if I don't scrum well today? What if he takes me off early because I'm having a bad game? Do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden you're questioning yourself. Excuse me. Then even to the point in games, like the ball would kick off, my butterflies would go, but then I needed to do something then in order for me to settle down, if that makes sense, into a
Yeah.
game. Whether it be they knock on from the kickoff, we'd have a scrum, and I'd win that first scrum. I'd be like, right,
Yeah.
here we go. I'm game to go now. Like I said, I need someone to tackle me, or I need to hit a ruck for my mind to
Just to
go
settle those
bang.
nerves.
Yeah, get rid of the nerves. But then suppose where I've been so chilled leading up to the game, like I said, I didn't need anyone, banging me on the head or pushing me over and all that. I think it was just a mental switch in my head going, right, let's go to work. You're here to play, here it is. So that's so I used to find was, but like I said, each to them, because I've seen videos and I'm sure you have, and I know players that used to go around headbutting the walls or they'd headbutt each other. And I remember just looking at them like, what are you doing?
I
They're
suppose
going to
everyone's
play
got their own
rugby, but
rituals, haven't they?
100%. You know what I mean? Like I used to wear my lucky briefs and stupid little things like that, and like I said, just chill out on my own, and I would have a pack of sweets, or because back then they were saying that they were not a good source of sugar, but I used to just like eating Haribo. So
Yeah. Well, you were just talking about there about thinking about what if they beat me and what if he beats me to the ball and that sort of stuff. From mindset coaching, what we call that story thinking. So you got like story thinking and action thinking. So for example, when a sportsman, if they're in story thinking, you're thinking of what might happen in the future, or what if this happens, and you're thinking about what you're gonna have for dinner next week, or what your missus might think. All that story thinking, and it's that thinking that can put you off your game.
yeah,
Whereas if action thinking is where you're here and now in the moment, and you're super laser focused on where the ball's at, where your players are at. That's what we call in mindset coaching as
yeah.
action thinking.
But it's like just listening to you say that, then it was take me back to again. I was quite lucky to have won a few little medals over here. Like we won the championship with London Welsh. I won the BMI with London Welsh, and it was just mad because even on the bus driving to those games, like I actually started thinking, right, what if I scored in the corner, my family are over in the corner there, and I lift the trophy, and but do you know what I mean? But I think every player would do that type of thing, if that makes sense. But
Mhm.
I just think that it's something that I did no matter what. Like,
Yeah,
always thought, like, what would the feeling be? I know people saying, "Oh, about like the Champions League and stuff." Like, what would the feeling be getting to the final, not lifting the trophy? You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I get it a lot, like I said, and I do it a lot. And but like I said, once that initial contact of a scrum, a line out, a rock, a maul, whatever it may be, a ball carry, I stopped all of that. Then
yeah.
it
You're in
was
action. You're in action thinking then.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But like I said, but then I get off there and I sit on the bench and I keep taking off with a boot, and I'm like, what's around McDonald's on the way home? Or,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean? It's
yeah,
like your mind's completely gone from rugby because there's a chance, the slight chance you might go back on if he gets injured or yellow carded. But I used to have a ritual of, as soon as I was taking off, I don't do my boots, socks would go down, all my tape would come off. And then, like I said, then my mind would be, right, what are we
relax.
having for tea tonight? Or am I having a pint tonight? Or what are we doing tonight, boys? And
Yeah,
it's like, boys, like, oh, mate, it's still 15 minutes to go of the game. It's like, yeah, but my job is done here as far as I'm concerned for the day. So my whole body have just switched off from that game. You know what I mean? It's nice to it's a nice feeling as well. Like you said,
yeah,
you're stressed and all that leading up to it because you want to get a result, you want to get a performance, and then all of a sudden you've had a decent game, you've got a good result, you're winning, you've come off, you're like, well, even if we lose now, I've done my bit. We were winning when I was on, or I've had a stormer.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like I said, just to release your brain from all the. Because don't forget, like I said earlier, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, all leads up to that one game on a Saturday.
Of
So
course, yeah,
and then flip it on his head. You go in on the Monday to review that game. You've had a shocker, and I remember like speaking to the boys. We'd all have a coffee before training. It's like, oh, you wait till the review later. You're in for it. As so you'd be worried about it for like an hour or so there, and then you know what I mean. But then all of a sudden, the coach wouldn't be that bad. You're going, was that it? I was expecting like him to throw everything at me. You know what I mean? And like again, you start sweating about it and you start thinking and overthinking it because you think of worst case scenarios, don't you, in those situations
yeah,
when actually they don't turn out to be that bad,
yeah. Like a
you
naughty little
know?
school kid waiting to be to see the headmaster. Like,
Yeah, exactly. But like, you're 30 odd years of age. But again, it goes to show the respect you have for your coach and your fellow players because no one goes out there to have a shocker.
no, you want to do your best at the end of the
Of
day.
course you do. But again, like you said, you have a bad game. You imagine going on a Saturday night, and this is how you get on. You start shouting with the missus and kids then, and it's like, you know what I mean? It's like my missus said to me in the past, "It's not our fault you lost." You know what I mean? And it's like, well, yeah, actually, you're right. It's
Yeah,
gone now. You're gonna get told off Mondays. Whatever's gonna happen Monday, but all of a sudden you'd have your Saturday night, your Sunday, with a bit of panic and anxiety, thinking, "I'm like, yo, Monday's coming," and you know what I mean? Just play on your mind, and it can get to a lot of people. Like,
so that's why it's important to talk.
yeah,
Um,
100%.
just to sort of wrap things up then, just one more topic I want to sort of talk about is the sort of standard of rugby in grassroots in Wales at the moment. And you brushed earlier on it about the sort of how the regions have changed and where have you. And I know we're doing pretty well at the moment with now Gatland is back as head coach. What's your opinions on how we're recruiting, how we're discovering the younger talent, and do you think it's good that the way the regions have gone these days?
Um, Personally, I think Wales are in a bit of turmoil. Um, I love, I love the Blues. I love Wales. I love rugby. I want every region in Wales to do well as well. But luckily, I say luckily, but this is a topic that's quite close to my heart at the moment because obviously my son has left and signed over in England. He left at 16, went to Clifton College on a scholarship and signed for Bristol Bears, which I know the Blues didn't want at the time. But then when I actually got speaking to people like Griff Rees, who I got a lot of time for, he asked me the question of why are we losing so many kids across the bridge? And this is Wales's biggest problem at the moment. I think Louis' year alone, I think it was something like 36 players went over to either your Clifton, your Millfield, um, you said, all these, Harbury, all these massive universities and such. But when Griff said to me about why Wales can't compete with them at that level because there's so much money over in England. Again, I won't say the figures, but it was a lot of money for Louis to go to Clifton College, which luckily we had a very big scholarship, which otherwise he wouldn't have been able to go purely because of the financial side of it. But what my point is, when these kind of prestigious colleges are coming over and offering parents in Wales this kind of package, and then all of a sudden, then you got like Clifton is linked with Bristol Bears. You got Harbury is linked very closely to Gloucester Rugby Club. So all of a sudden, then you lose this player from Wales into England, into a school. The likelihood is 8 out of 10 will probably sign for that English club because their coaches are better. They got more money. Their facilities are better. Do you know what I mean? So it's something
More
that I think
opportunity.
100%. But then something little as, excuse me, I think there's 10 or 12 in the English Premiership in terms of teams. There's only 4 Welsh regions. So you've got a chance of getting into 12 squads, not 4, and I'm not saying that's, WIU's fault because we've had 4 regions for a while and it's worked, but
But
I
we
just
know
think
that
we
we
need
know
to.
there's an issue with because quite recently, the seniors, Welsh rugby players and where have you, there was talk, I think it was just last year, wasn't it, about the pay?
Yeah,
And
they want to go on strike.
yeah. So
And like I said earlier, sorry to interrupt you, Chad, what I said earlier was like when Rich Webb did it a few years ago, and I can't fault him. He went in £1 million a year. The Ospreys were probably paying him 300 grand. It's huge money. But it's like you can't fault this guy for going over and getting 700 grand because, like I said to you earlier, mate, from 18 to 23, you're breaking through, and you get to them. And by the time you're 24 to 30, maybe you're probably in your prime, and that you might only have a 6-year window of actually earning that top money.
yeah,
So, and it's not a lot. It is, but it's not when you think you retire at 35 and you still got 30, 35 years of working time available to you.
yeah.
You've got to go out and try and get every penny you can.
As much as you can, and as much as you might be, patriotic and passionate about wanting to sort of stay within your country. I guess if the opportunity's not there and there's more money to be made elsewhere, then people are going to do it, aren't they? But what would you say is needed then in Wales to try and retain our players from grassroots right up into professional?
Um, it's a good question because obviously I speak to a lot of friends and parents because obviously, like again, Louis going through that age group of it all now, and I don't think there's a lot we can do unless the WRU throw money at it, And again, that's not me, bad mouthing the WRU or anything like that. I think we all know it. I think every coach knows it. But then the WRU will turn around and say we've got no money. So again, something little about, I know there's kids my son's age who've been offered pennies in Wales compared to, not, don't get me wrong, they're not on massive money over in England. But when you're talking a lot of money to an 18-year-old compared to what they're being offered in Wales, it makes their choice a bit easier again, And but then, you look at the Blues again. I love the Blues. Played there, coach there. You look at them over the last year or two. They've had, they say they got no money, but I think they got something like 10 international back rowers. How much money is being wasted on 10 international back rowers when you're saying you haven't got any money? You only play 3 of them in one game and one on the bench. So do you know what I mean? 6 of them
Yeah,
are not even.
yeah,
I know you get injuries,
they're getting
etc.
paid to be reserves.
Of course, and yourself, especially with them being international, they're on 150 grand like that, minimum, I'd say. And it's a lot of,
I've
like I
always
said, sorry.
I was going to
No, I was
say
gonna say
I've always
is
wondered what you got the 4 regions, and it's South Wales essentially. There's those 4 regions. Why we haven't extended to having any regions in North Wales?
Well, they tried it, didn't they? They did try it a couple of years back. I think they're still going. They named was it RGC 1904 or something, and it was something that the WRU kept on, wanting in terms of, like you said, that club up in North Wales. Um, but again, then the WRU threw all the money at them. They've had some great coaches over the years. I think they would have had a link with the Scarlets to get some players to play, and I know a few players have gone on from RGC to the Scarlets. But then all of a sudden, like I've been retired a few years now, but from what I can gather is it didn't work. They're still going, but the WRU have sort of pulled all the money away from it because it's like, oh, they tried and it failed. But like you look at it now, they're still trying to, they're potentially on about merging like Llanelli and Ospreys and Blues and Dragons. And this well, you can't go down to two regions. And I understand everything's about money, and I understand that half the time for money it ain't the answer. But in this case, or in some cases, you have to. You know, going back to what you said about Wales in terms of the players. I don't know how it works in Ireland, but you look at Ireland, they keep the majority of their best players playing in Ireland. They all get paid. So obviously like Sexton and one or two have left to go to France, etc., for massive money. But like it begs the question of why do they all stay? You know, they must be happy with the money. They must be happy with how things are run. The Irish RFU must have something in place to make sure that they want to stay. Because like, so you could turn around and go, I'm off to Japan for 2 years and I'm going to earn 1.5 million a year. But instead they still stay in Ireland. So one of my point is it must work. If it works over in Ireland and places like that, why can't it work with us?
Yeah, it's almost like we need to copy the blueprint.
Yeah, and let's be honest, it's like your playing patterns these days. Everyone plays the same. It's just some are different, a better playing it. It's not.
Yeah,
Rugby's a simple game. Made complicated by us.
yeah,
Like I
definitely.
said, we all do play, we all pull out the back. But it's just if you've got the players to do it and you haven't got the players to do it, that's where the results will come. Or 1 week that pass might be forward, and next week it might be back, and they score a winning try. Do you know what I mean? But I
Yeah,
100% agree with. I'm not saying copy them to the point of everything they do, Ireland, but they're number one in the world. They're on the verge of maybe winning the World Cup. Maybe we can, but if you looked at it now, you'd say Ireland got an 80% more chance of winning it than Wales have. Just
because the way
I
they
don't
play
know.
at
I'd love them to
at
do
the
it,
minute.
but again, we're going through turmoil in terms of the first team. But in fairness, Gatland's done a hell of a job. They've won every game so far. Excuse me. I'm sure they'll win against Georgia today, and all of a sudden, what looked bleak this time last year when we lost to Georgia of all teams, which we're playing today. Everyone would say, "Oh, Gatland's mad. He's come back. We're going to play Warren ball, and we're not going to win. We're not going to qualify from the group." And in fairness, tip your hat to him. He's gone out there. Hopefully, after today, won all four group games, set up a potential quarter final with Argentina and Japan, or Japan, sorry. All of a sudden, we've gone from everyone saying we're absolutely rhubarb, we're not even going to qualify from the group,
So now we're in the
to a
running.
semi-final,
Yeah,
if we could beat Japan or Argentina, which,
it's
let's be
possible.
honest, it's possible at the moment,
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, but like I
Well,
said, to answer your actual question, sorry, was I don't know what we can do apart from, like I said, chuck a few quid at it. Get a backer in, or do something, because we're losing all the best players. You know, and I understand when they get older, we lose them because they go and get from 30 on, they go and get the extra money. Fair play to them. But now we're starting to lose them at even as close as 16. Sorry, as young as 16. You know, and as close to 21, we're losing them now as well. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like
yeah,
we
and I
need to
guess I
stop it,
guess
but
that
how?
transpires as well. Then I suppose to like your boy has played for England under 18s now, isn't he? So that'll mean he could well get an opportunity to play for the men's over 18s now on the senior squad, couldn't he?
Yeah, when he played for England last year, he was in college, and I'm playing for Bristol Bears, so that made it life a bit easier. And Wales hadn't seen much of him. I won't go into details, but England then picked him. Um, I'm not sure England will like me saying this, but I've had a chat with him. Like he's Welsh, he wants to play for Wales. It's
Mm.
you
But that's
know
that's my point. I mean, ultimately, we've lost. a good player there that could have been playing for Wales to now playing for England.
Yeah, but again, it goes back what I was saying about earlier on about the kids his age. Like 37 of them have left Wales to go and play their trade in England anyway, which, you're talking, I'm not saying the best players, but, certainly 37 of your better players who are 18 years of age are all gone and signed for clubs in England,
Yeah,
and that's just from 1 year, You do that next year, all of a sudden, I'm not saying they're not going to play for Wales in the future, because they probably will have to because of the to be qualified, etc. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to lose 30 to 40 players a season at 18 to English clubs, what are we bringing through that's left? Because the worst thing up in England is they're great, they look after you, but yourself, mate. If you're not good enough for 21, you're gone, and all of a sudden you're trying to come back to Wales. Then, can I get a gig in Wales? Is there anyone looking for a outside half who's 21 who haven't played much rugby? Do you know what I mean? So it's a knock-on effect of the rest of your career as well if you don't go, right, or don't go
yeah,
well for you.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so just to wrap it up then, Nate, what would you say is your prediction for Wales in the World Cup? How far do you think we can go?
Definitely semi-final. I'm gonna go. I
Yeah,
think, like we just touched on, I think they'll win today. I definitely think they'll well, I'm not saying they'll definitely beat them, but Argentina are obviously a good team on their day.
yeah,
But let's be honest, you look at the 8 teams that's going to be in the quarterfinals. If you had to pick a team, you probably would pick Argentina or Japan at the moment. That would be so-called easier route. So I'm gonna
yeah.
put it on tape and say semi-final at minimum.
Semi-final minimum. So you don't think we can get to the final?
Um,
Because who
it
would
depends.
we potentially have in the semi-final then?
Um, isn't it? Is it? I don't know. Is it England?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's England.
I think it is
Yeah,
because they'll be obviously playing. So no. So who to work out? So France are going to play South Africa by the look of it in the semis, isn't there?
yeah,
Wales are going to play Argentina or Japan, whoever wins tomorrow.
yeah,
So then that means
yeah. I think
so
England are the.
Ireland are going to play New Zealand. So who does that leave? Oh, but it's just scratching my head
So
now.
we're Pool C, aren't we? So
Yeah,
well, actually, England are Pool D. So it's England are currently top and Argentina are second. So yeah, we're either going to have Argentina or Japan.
yeah, and
Um,
then
so
so England are going to play Fiji
England,
by the look of
yeah,
it.
by the looks of it. So
We
yeah,
got
we
there,
we
mate.
would
We
go
got
on to
there.
play. So semi-final then we go on to play one of the Pool A or Pool B winners for the
So
semi-final, wouldn't we? Which would be either Ireland, South Africa, France, or New Zealand.
yeah, so that's what I'm going to say. Semi-final minimum.
Semi-final. Okay.
I'd love them to get
Fair
to the
enough.
final. I'd love them to win it. But I just think you look at New Zealand, South Africa, Ireland at the moment. I just don't think we could beat him at the moment. Like I said, he's done an amazing job at this World Cup, and he's definitely bleeding some of the right youngsters ready for the future. But I just think
Hell of an
that's
achievement for him to have come back in the way he did, though, isn't it? And
I mean,
in my opinion, we were playing terrible with Pivac, and to
unbelievably bad. And again, it's like we were talking about earlier, mate. When you just get a coach who comes in and puts his arm around you, says, "Listen, lads, things at times are tough, but we're better than that." And it could be something as little as that.
yeah,
Look, everyone's laughing at us. What have we got to lose? Let's just express yourselves and go and play rugby and enjoy it again.
yeah,
And then the results come. Then the performances come. And like I said, all of a sudden now we're talking the Wales of potentially getting to a semi-final of a World Cup. Where in 12 months, well, not even 12 months ago, 11 months ago, we lost at home to Georgia 13-12.
yeah,
So what a difference a year can make.
of course. Yeah. So just to wrap it up, then, Nate. Again, thanks for giving up your time to come and speak to me. Really appreciate it. I've enjoyed getting a real insight into your career and into your opinions. Yeah, I'll just end it
No
there.
problem at all. Thank you so much for
Thanks,
having
mate.
me.
Cheers.
Cheers, bud.